and I fell asleep for a good 3 hours. I just know if he made a booktube channel, hey mom, let's eat it, like of 100 pieces, shocked me. I'm just gonna let it just sit in here. I calculated the amount of pages I read, and it was... Alright, hello everyone, how's it going? So in today's video, I'm gonna try and attempt to read as many books as I can in 24 hours. I did this last time, but I did it with a particular genre. I think I did it with thriller books last time. It was a lot of fun. It was extremely tiring, and unfortunately, for the time during that video, I didn't get through many of the books that I wanted to read. But hopefully, in this video, we'll accomplish that because I pretty much will only read the shortest books that I currently own. Alright, so I sort of divided these books into two separate categories, if you will. Alright, so this first stack right here are all the books ranging from anywhere to 100 to 150 pages. Hopefully, by the time 24 hours is up, I'll have read and completed each and every one. I've also added 3 more short-ish books, if you will, and these 3 books range anywhere from 150 to 200 pages or more. First one we have is Tender in the Flesh, Cannibalism. This one has been on my TBR for a while now. A little over 200 pages, so looking forward to this one. The second book in this pile is Almond, which I got for my birthday. Shout out to Chris and Michelle. This one is around 250 pages, I believe. Next, we have Severance by Ling Ma. I actually don't even think I'll be able to get through this book, actually, because I looked at the page count, and it's almost 300 pages. So we'll see. That's like an average sized book, I think. I thought it was a lot shorter, but that isn't the case. I'm gonna add Human Acts. This one has been on my TBR for a while. And this one comes in at a little over 200 pages. I think like 220 pages. It's also from the same author. We have The Vegetarian. And this one, 188 pages. All right, next coming in at 172 pages is Convenience Store Women. I've heard a lot of really funny and interesting things about this author. All right, so the next book is Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto. Which is a fantastic name, by the way. And this cover clocks in at exactly 150 pages. Next up, we have 2 poetry books, both by Ocean Vuong, and this is Night Sky with Exit Wounds and Time is Mother. I actually have not read a lot of poetry in my life, and I've seen a whole lot of people vibe with it, you know? So we'll see. Ocean Vuong's other book, On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, literally one of my favorite books of all time. I believe this will be like the shortest book that I'll be reading. It's like less than 100 pages. Next, we have Swimming in the Dark, and this comes in at... Whoa! Wait a second. It's over 200 pages. Interesting. I guess when it comes to the sizes of books, size does not matter, because here I was thinking it would be under 200 pages, but it's like way over 230 pages. So ideally, this does belong in the second category of books, the longer short books, if you will. But I really want to read it because it's gay. It's about these 2 Polish men in like the early 1980s. All right, so the next book in this pile is Lie With Me. And this one is really interesting because it's also another gay book, but the most interesting thing about this 150 page book literally doesn't even look like it's 150 pages, right? It was translated from French to English by the Molly Ringwald, the actress, which is so random to me. I would have never thought in a million years Molly Ringwald would be the person to translate this book, but I am really looking forward to reading this. We have This Is How You Lose the Time War, and this actually clocks in at pretty much 200 pages, I think exactly. Time travel, sapphic agents, mystery, political intrigue. What more can you want? At 175 pages, we have Heaven, and I actually don't even know what this book is about. I think I got it at a Barnes & Noble sale. So, all right, last but not least, we have The Cat Who Saved Books and Tokyo Express. Judging from the size of these 2 books, I would say they're less than 200 pages. These are also sort of on the bottom of my priority, but I do hope to actually get through these books as well. All right, and so those are the books I'm hoping to read and complete in 24 hours. I also want to preface that this isn't like your regular 24 hour in a day. I'm actually gonna split it up, split the reading time in 24 hours instead of reading straight through for 24 hours. There you go. Let's see how long I can kiss you for. Hey. Hello everyone. Just a quick update. It's been like a couple months since I filmed that intro, but no one's gonna notice, right? This is the official stack. So I think we're gonna start off with the shortest book in the collection, which would be poetry. A lot of the things that I've seen from people who have read poetry really love that existential feeling of just reflection and just reaching deep down within yourself and feeling all the feels. I think that's just like the vibes that I get from people reading poetry in general. I honestly think the last type of poetry book that I read was in high school. I would say if anything came close to poetry, it would be anything written by like Shakespeare or Homer, right? Would you include books like that to be sort of poetry? Because they're sort of like poetic, you know? Hopefully I'll understand what's going on, but we'll see. We're gonna go ahead and start the official timer, starting now. Hello. Quick update, everybody. So as soon as I sat on that couch to read, right? I laid down to read. And that was a big mistake because 14 pages and I fell asleep. I fell asleep for a good 3 hours. So 24-hour reading challenge going really well. You know, I thought it was wild because I thought I would be the type of person to just fly through poetry, not understanding or basically not able to articulate the sentences, the structure, the writing, the meaning behind it and not fully understand it. But for me, what I found out is that a lot of it is how you interpret it, right? Not exactly open interpretation. I feel like each person, how they convey the meaning, you know, behind the poetry is a little bit different. I don't know what it is with his writing. It's just so good. He's so talented. I get it now. I get why all the girlies, why all of you guys really love poetry. And I think I might too. Reading from what, like 14 pages or something? His writing is just so good. How he conveys his feelings and the relationship with his father is just so profound. You can't just help but take it slow and take it all in. It's interesting because, you know, in a sense, you have to use like more brain power to like understand the meaning more than just like a regular book. With this one so far, there's just so much imagery surrounding it. Like each set, each poetry collection is like a narrative short story in of itself. And you know, one thing that I thought was mandatory for all poetry was that it all had to like rhyme in some shape or way or form or whatever, but to my surprise it actually doesn't. There just has to be some form of structure to it. And I think I understand what that structure is. I'm gonna cut a little break and get some food. Mee goreng could be an option. You know what? I think we're gonna go with some good old bun bok lop. So if you didn't know what I said, it's basically like a Vietnamese, I don't want to say delicacy. It's like this dish that is contrived of banana leaves, flour, and little bits and pieces of like salted shrimp or meat inside. So this was sitting in the freezer, but we're gonna thaw it out a little bit and steam it, but you don't eat the banana leaf. Looks like this. It's so good. Literally one of my favorites. I can't find any here in LA. My mom orders me like a huge bag, like of 100 pieces for me to take home every time I go back to San Jose. What I saw is that you can take some aluminum foil, just put it underneath like a plate or something. There you go. Voila. Steamer. So this is what it's supposed to look like. Steamed and ready to be eaten. You typically eat this with like fish sauce or nuoc mam, but I don't have any. So we're gonna go without it. And it looks like this. Not very appetizing, but oh shit. But trust me, it's so good and it packs a lot of flavor. Full of flavor. It's just all flour, shrimp, and little pieces of like, I want to say beef or pork. I know it doesn't look like it, but it's super good. So good. But I actually didn't know this was not just poems, but comprised of like short essays as well. It is time for an update. So it is the next day, and I have officially read around 6 hours so far. And in the order of reading, I finished Night Sky with Exit Wounds, Time is a Mother, Lie with Me, and Kitchen. So I finished this one first, and I loved it. 5 out of 5 immediately, especially that last poem, the last line. It was just emotional and moving. This one hit me pretty deep, hit me in all the right feels, and I really loved it. This is the type of book where I feel like, well, both of his books, his other poetry book as well, where I can reread it and always find something new, something new to discover. There's just so much to take in and ponder, and just overall a really beautiful and captivating experience. So definitely highly would recommend. I would actually, however, if you're, I guess, starting to poetry, I would start with Time is a Mother. I just feel like this, oh my god, I actually like this better than Night Sky with Exit Wounds, but still, 5 out of 5 for me. I would start off with this one just because this one felt more straightforward, something more concrete that you could understand, like, at face value. Night Sky with Exit Wounds was a little bit more on the abstract, on the surrealist side, but Time is a Mother, this was so fucking good. While this one felt more sentimental and sad and just soft, this one to me felt more alive, felt more like a celebration. It just was a bit louder in general, and I ate it up. I loved it so much. There are 2 poems in here, or 2 or 3 poems in here, that I just still can't stop thinking about it. It is just so good, so raw, so visceral. This one dived more into like the non-existent relationships with his father, and this one, of course, was all about his mother. It deals with like masculinity, femininity, friendship, and just life in general. And it was just so thought-provoking. I fucking loved it. I don't know what it is, but just reading these 2 books, reading poetry in general, I feel like I want to go and write something, and I never really felt that way before. Like reading, just regular fiction books, like a new gateway or door has been opened in my mind, and I just want to write and create stories in general. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I should be reading more poetry. If you have any other poetry recommendations, if you have read Ocean Vuong and his work, and any other recommendations in lieu of his work, please let me know. Please give me all the recommendations down below. And honestly, this was really surprising because it wasn't just 100% poetry. There were like short segments of paragraphs, almost like mini essays, if you will. I am in love. I am a changed person. The next book that I read was Lie with Me. And this one, surprisingly, I have mixed feelings for. So upon starting it, I was here for it. I was ready, eating all this shit up. The writing here is so good. It's very simple, but very deliberate and lyrical, which, I don't know, I just devoured it. And to think that Molly Ringwald, translated this book from French, like, honestly, beautiful job, well done. So this was super short, and it was giving me, I guess, Call Me By Your Name vibes, but it was giving me that summer European, that summer romance vibes. But this one follows the summer romance between these 2 teenage boys in the late or mid 1980s. And I gotta say, oh my gosh, honestly, it was kind of heartbreaking to read because you just felt the tenderness and the devastation that is your first love. It's not as traumatic or triggering as like A Little Life, but this one is just different. It stands really well on its own, and honestly, it's just a beautiful short read. The writing in the story here sort of reads like a memoir, but just the characters, the romance between the 2 boys, the relationship, it was just so poignant. All the melancholy vibes. Originally, I was going to give this a 3 out of 5, but after reflecting and sleeping on it, I think I'm going to bump it up to a 4 with just how much it stuck with me. So the next book that I finished late last night was Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto, which is an incredible cool name, by the way. Originally, in the beginning, the writing threw me off a bit. It was interesting and also ridiculous, to say the least, because I don't know what it was about the writing. Maybe it was how it was translated from Japanese, which was the original language that the book was written in. But once you got through it and you were familiar with it, it made sense in the context of the novel. Like, it almost became a prose in of itself, to the point where a lot of segments in this book I thought were just really beautifully written. The writing here, albeit comical at times, does become stoic in its own way, that it becomes lyrical in a sense. Comforting, really. So I actually didn't even know what this book was about, going in. It primarily follows these 2 short stories, and each story is self-contained, following different characters, all dealing with the death of a loved one and dealing with their absence the grief, the pieces that they left behind, the aftermath of it all. It's short and simple, but it deals heavy-handed with the grievances of death and the people that pick up the pieces afterwards. The title, Kitchen, here, I thought would play a bigger and much heavier role. However, I feel like it's more of like a background role, letting the characters, the absence of loved ones, and death being the forefront of it all. However, it does play a crucial role in that food, especially good food, fucking heals. And sometimes, with the simplest of hearty meals, it can save someone's life. Figuratively, of course. I also want to mention something. So, the death of a loved one here is of a trans woman. I was looking this up, and this book was written, apparently, back in the 80s. And so, the terms in here are very outdated and can be a little problematic and harmful. So just be aware of that going in, because when I first read some of the terms or descriptions that they would describe, trans people, the trans character in this case, I was appalled. I was like, what the fuck? This is 2023, but it is a product of its time. But I do gotta say though, the story and the characters and the writing of itself, and aside from that, I really liked the book overall. But yeah, in the end, I am giving this a 4 out of 5. So the next book I'm going to read, the next book coming in at 172 pages, is Convenience Store Woman, another Japanese translated book. And I gotta say, I heard a lot of interesting things about this author, and I'm very curious to see where this book will be headed. So, we'll see. Hello everyone, just a quick update. I am going to stop and take a short break to cook some dinner. For dinner, we're going to be making some miso pasta with pork chops. It's a TikTok recipe. But anyways, I'm also listening to the audiobook for this as well. So far, it's interesting. The main character so far is like the model spokesperson for just great customer service anywhere and everywhere. She takes her job uber seriously. When she was a kid, she found a dead bird. She didn't even think about death or anything. She just picks it up and was like, hey mom, let's eat it, because the bird is food. And she heard that her dad likes this certain dish similar to like a dead bird, like chicken and whatnot. Of course, the mom's like horrified. So it was just really funny, a bit morbid, but I am sort of getting like the general vibes of this book. So far so good. I haven't read too much, but that's the thing. This is a little bit different from like a straightforward 24-hour reading vlog where you're just reading for 24 hours straight. I'm like reading for 24 hours, just dividing it up throughout the day. So guess what fucking happened? I accidentally cleared the entire countdown. The last time I checked, it was at like 17 something. So I did listen to this though on like 2.5x speed, and I finished this book in a little under like 2 hours or something like that. Anyways, regarding the book, this was fine. I thought it was good in a sense that it was really weird at times and really quirky. It had a really great outlook and conversation going regarding societal standards when it came to topics like marriage or capitalism and imposing their ideas on someone else. Especially if you've been, for an example, single for like the past 28 years, some people could see that as a red flag and wonder, why haven't you had a significant other? Why haven't you been in a relationship? And think weirdly of you, or if you had a certain job for a while and you haven't leveled up or moved up and you are content where you're at, and that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly normal. I relate to this because there are so many instances where I'm comparing my self-worth to other people, what they're doing for their job, what they're doing in their life, Sometimes I have to take a step back and just remind myself that, hey, you have everything that makes you happy. You don't need to look or compare others' worth to compare your own worth. I really liked it overall. I'm giving this like a 3.5 out of 5. Really quick read. I think compared to all the books that I've read, this was by far like the lightest and funniest. A lot of heavy-handed comedy here. So this is my first book from Sayaka Murata. And I gotta say, I'm very interested to see what she does with her other books, because going to this one, I thought, with the cute cover, it would lean towards more like the lighter, the fluffier side, like of life, coming of age. This was like a subversion of coming of age with a dash of comedy. When I got to the middle of the book, I thought it would veer towards like really dark and just really weird and perhaps grotesque. I thought the main character would snap and commit murder or something in due diligence of being a convenience store worker, But anyways, I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. So surprisingly, when I was checking back with the list, we have a lot of Japanese translated works here. But I'm not mad about it. I'm actually really looking forward to reading a lot of the books on this list, and I'm really looking forward to reading the next one, which will be Heaven. I read the synopsis, and it sounds like it'll be another really emotionally driven and thought-provoking book. So it happened again. I was just, lying here, and that was a mistake because I was reading this book and I completely knocked out. I fell asleep. I'm currently 10 hours into the challenge, although to be fair, I didn't pause the timer when I fell asleep. Some time was lost here in translation. So far, I am 60 pages into this book, Heaven. It's an emotional roller coaster so far. The bullying, it's just, I really feel for these kids. It is just so heartbreaking reading about what these two kids, this boy and this girl, are going through. The only solace that they can find, not even in their families, is through each other, is through these little notes and letters that they write to each other. Even though they're in the same classroom, they mostly communicate through handwritten notes. And that's also how the story is told as well, interspersed throughout so far. All right, so update. Finished the book. It is now 2:30ish a.m. in the morning. I took a short break after I finished it and was just scrolling on YouTube and TikTok and everything. But I don't know how to feel. I feel like the first half of the book, I thought would be more of like an introspective look in the relationship between these two characters, these two young teenagers, and their shared bonding and trauma over getting just harassed and bullied by their classmates. Their relationship was really interesting because these two teenagers were essentially brought together through these acts of violence. I wanted, to explore that because it wasn't organic in a way. It's very much forced in this confined space that they shared. I feel like within the second half of the book, it's sort of, or more the third half, I gotta say, it was more about the philosophies, I guess, the outlooks on a few aspects of ableism and classism and why and how people bully the weak or people who are weaker than them in general. And while I did think that direction was interesting, it was still a little left to be desired in my opinion. I think in the end I'm gonna go with a strong 3.5 out of 5. I thought it started off really strong and I was very curious to see what the direction this book would go in. And I'm even now more curious to read from Kawakami as well. But this did pack a punch in a way that I wasn't expecting. I did really like reading the last couple of pages, the last page especially, but I feel like there were a lot of questions that I had that weren't going to be answered, and in this sense, in this context, it made sense and it was okay. This was a small part of his life that would irrevocably change our main character forever, both of our characters, but mostly from his perspective, if you will. I might bump it up to a 4. From a 3.5. I mean, 3.5 is a pretty good rating. That's pretty much all the things I have to say regarding Heaven. I thought the title itself would be gut-wrenching and just super thought-provoking, and it was, in a way, just not in the way I was expecting. I'm gonna go ahead and pick up the next book. So the next book, coming in at 188 pages, is The Vegetarian by Kang. Don't really know much about this book aside from the fact that it's about cannibalism. I have a couple books on cannibalism here, or people who eat meat. That's cannibalism. Anyway, I have Tender as the Flesh. We'll see if we even get to that because time is running out. I have 13 hours left in this 24-hour reading challenge. So we'll see how quickly I can get through this. Just a quick update. So if it all goes according to plan for this challenge, there are 5 more books I'm hoping to read and complete. I know that I'll probably be able to read at least 3, right? These 3 right here. I also have another book by Hong Kong, which is Human Acts, but they are in order from least to greatest amount of pages. And surprisingly, this one has the most, coming in at 229. Swimming in the Dark. I have been looking forward to reading this for so long, but we'll see. I don't know for this challenge if we'll maybe make it. But next up after The Vegetarian will be This Is How You Lose the Time War, and I have been hearing so many good things about this book. I've heard it's sapphic, time travel, sci-fi, and it's just that good. So really looking forward to this one. I believe this one comes in at 198 pages or something like that, close to 200. The next one is The Cat Who Saved Books, and this is a book that's special to me because I got it in Thailand, and it was all wrapped up, and I took out the package just for this video. It was in pristine condition, and it just feels different from any other book in this pile. Look, it even has flaps, deckled end pages. It just feels different, and I'm really looking forward to reading this. This is also another Japanese translated book. This one also comes in at 198 pages, same as This Is How You Use the Time War, but I'm prioritizing this book over this one just in case something happens. And then next up we have Tender as the Flesh, which I have heard a lot of things about. Fingers crossed we'll get to all 5. Well, now it is 6:18 a.m. in the morning. You can see a little bit outside, but I have finished The Vegetarian. I have sort of mixed feelings. I feel like if A24 made this into a movie, it would have definitely been a force on its own. I feel like this book would have really benefited from like a visual art house point of view. The first half of the book was really interesting because I thought we'd be getting like a psychological drama, like a family drama, sort of like a thriller-esque edge to it, right? But the second half sort of deviated away from that and veered into like this more surreal body art house piece sort of vibe. I don't know, the ending was really weird. I gotta say though, it surprised me because I originally thought we would be getting, you know, our main story, the main POV from our main central female character, who's the main focal point of this book. But we don't. We actually only get her like POV, her snippets, through her dreams, which are like in broken segments throughout the course of the novel. You basically only get to see her through her interactions with the first 2 POVs, which are through the men in her lives. The first POV is her husband, the second is her brother-in-law, with the third being her sister. And I gotta say, I kind of felt dejected from, I guess, the story overall, because I would have liked, you know, reading from our main character's POV, you know, just to see, you know, what was going on in her head, going through what she was going through. I don't even know honestly, what she was going through, if it was metaphorical, if it was just all like a certain dream, a nightmare that she was going through. I don't even know. I don't know, who knows? Maybe I'm delirious at this point. It was just really disconnecting overall. I mean, especially the fact that these two men in her life, you know, people who are close to her, who are important to her, they only want to assert their control over her, you know, dominating what she can do, especially with their viewpoint on how they viewed her body, how they viewed ownership overall with our main character. Either assessing her as a person, her character, or obsessing over her character, her body, or taking advantage of her and whatnot. The third POV didn't even get me what I wanted out of the story. It was just overall really strange and weird, I gotta say. I guess there are a lot of different like allegories and metaphors and parallels with this book, I guess, when it came to women's bodies. But other than that, I just thought this was really weird. It was fine. I really liked the writing. I guess that would be like the best highlight of it all for me. Very slow moving, quite haunting actually, that to the point where it was sort of beautiful in a sense to read, which I thought was a really interesting vantage point regarding this book. What this book also does is that with each different POV, it is told in different perspectives as well. I believe it is in first and third perspective, with the only snippets that we get from our main character is through her dreams. I believe I'm going to give this, you know, a 3 to 5. It was a little disconnecting at times, but you know what? I appreciate the sentiment, the value that this book had to offer. Maybe it's because it's 6 a.m. in the morning right now, but I thought it was fine. I thought it was good, but I'm curious to see other works from the author as well, because her writing to me was the most interesting and I would really like to explore that in the future. So the next book, coming in at 198 pages, is This Is How You Lose the Time War. I also want to mention that we have around 12 hours left for this challenge. So, all right, so I have completed This Is How You Lose the Time War. I did a whole spiel, whole little vlog snippet of this, and if you want to see all of my thoughts and that little snippet of the vlog, you can check out that video on my Patreon, because I had a whole lot of things to say about this book. But if you want to know my full in-depth review, my thoughts, the process going into this and coming out of it, then you can later check it out over on yonder. So, all right, so after completing that mind-boggling dream mess fever that was This Is How You Lose the Time War, I'm going to go ahead and go into somewhat of another surreal, abstract book. And this one is The Cat Who Saved Books. Pretty wholesome, pretty cute. I am looking forward to reading this because cat and books, a few of my favorite things in the world. And I believe this one also is at 198 pages. So I still have around 10 hours left, which is fine with me because I have like another 3 or 4 books I want to complete in this pile. Hi, hello, yes, we are back in the kitchen again. I just want to give you guys a quick update. I'm only like, 36 pages in, and it's reading like a Studio Ghibli movie, and I fucking love it. Oh my god, this has like all the good things I love to read about in books. It's a book about books. It's a book about a young boy who, after the death of his grandfather, has inherited his bookstore. And in this bookstore, he encounters a super sassy, promiscuous talking cat, an orange tabby cat, similar to my cat, like Pyrrha. But Pyrrha would never in a million years would come up to me and be like, hey bitch, let's go and save books. He would be like, you know, I'm tired, I'm gonna sleep, I'm gonna sit here. No way, this cat right here, he's like, yo boy, you and me, we're gonna go save the world. We're gonna go save the world one book at a time. So he embarks on this adventure with this high school boy going after 3 different people and trying to save different books. So far, we're at the first person, and let me tell you, this man that they've encountered has read over 57,000 books. I cannot even fathom 57,000 books, let alone him mentioning here that he reads roughly around 100 books per month. That's like a fucking superpower. You know what? I just know if he made a booktube channel, reading 100 books per month, everyone would be eating that shit up. I would be eating that shit up. Like, how? How are you reading 100 books per month? That is a superpower in of itself, like unheard of, right? I'm not saying it's impossible. It kind of is. But like, fucking insane. Anyway, so far, I really love it. It's like magical, you know, but magical in the sense that it's like educational in a way, because the author, I can already tell he is so well read and he knows his books. Like, there are so many ways where he has listed a bunch of well-known authors and books and all that. And I'm like, damn, I thought I read a lot and I thought I was well read. With that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and get right back into reading. You fucking guys. I've completed this book. I finished it and I still have around 8.5 hours left of this challenge. Good on time, if I do say so myself. You guys, this is my new favorite book. This is my new favorite book of the entire year. 5 out of fucking 5 stars. Like, you know how last year, how I felt about Piranesi, how I felt so strongly about that book? This is another book where I feel so strongly about. It is so fucking good. It is so subdued and quiet and contemplative. It is just filled with so much empathy and compassion and just love for books that, honestly, this book reinvigorated or rekindled and reignited my love for reading again. Like, all of these books, I just want to hug them again after reading this. I got all the goosies, all the goosebumps. Like, it made me want to hug and cuddle my cat close to me. Like, oh my god, all the good things. I looked on Goodreads afterwards, and the reviews do not do it justice. I feel like if you give this book anything less than 5 stars, you don't understand what it means to be a reader. You don't understand books. You don't love books, okay? I said what I said. This was so fucking good. Oh my god. You guys. Tell everyone to read this book, Vera. Tell everyone that they have to read this book. No more kissy? No more? This book just hit me in all the right feels. It hit so goddamn hard. Like, it talks about, you know, even though you're reading all of these books in fiction and fantasy with your head in the clouds, sometimes it's harder to, you know, progress in life with one foot in reality while the other in fantasy. Momentarily, it's fine, but it can't be like that forever. You need to have both feet right in front of you to stand up, you know, straight and tall. And that's just a metaphor just for life in general, not just for books. Like, the entirety of this book was just so introspective, like so knowledgeable, just about books, the parallels, the symbolisms, the metaphors, the allegories. Everything about it was just so fascinating, educational, and loved. There are certain parallels in here that I really loved because the main character, this teenage boy, he goes on this quest with the talking cats to just, simply put, save books. But it's really interesting how these quests mirror certain ideologies just surrounding reading and collecting books, you know, just how it was reflected within the real world. And I thought that was just so fascinating to read from. For an example, you have a man who only collects books because he wants to be perceived as well-educated, well-read, knowledgeable, and he only collects books, reads them once, and basically showcases them in like the most pristine condition. While the other man on another quest basically rips books to shred, cuts up the stories in order to reduce the book in context in its entirety to a single short summary to save readers time and energy of consumption. It was just overall so beautiful, mesmerizing, and thought-provoking. It was just such a brilliant, good book. By far my favorite in the entire list so far. Like, this one takes it home. This one takes the cake, the cherry on top. I just fucking loved it. If you're looking for like a Studio Ghibli-esque comfortable, really warm and fuzzy, just introspective book about books in general, look no further. You have my 5-star recommendation from me, a new favorite. Everything about it. I loved it. So kind, empathetic, compassionate. I don't know what it was, but I want to read every single book that this author has ever written now. And I also have to give credit to the translators as well. This, by far, of all the Japanese translated books that I've read from this pile, this is my favorite. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it is. It's just so quiet and observant. I loved it. So listen to the Goodreads reviews, okay? I know this book has like a 3.7 out of 5, which is not a bad rating at all. But I just gotta tell you, if you have listened to me and my recommendations and you watch my channels, take my words into action. Go get this book. I got this edition in Thailand. I'm not sure if the US has a different edition or not. But oh my god, I am so thankful and happy that I purchased this book and got it there. I just know that this book will have a special place in my heart forever. Alright, so the next book coming in at 210 pages, we have Tender is the Flesh. Another book about... Well, I shouldn't say another book about cannibalism because The Vegetarian wasn't exactly about cannibalism. It was just about someone who was vegetarian. But this one supposedly is actually about a woman who is a cannibal or deals with cannibalism, something like that. So I don't really know too much about it. But other than that, we still have 8 hours to go, folks. More than that, 8.5 hours. And we still have 3 books left in this pile. Like, who knows? I might be able to add even another book to this list as well. So we'll see. Okay, so... update on this. What the fuck? Here I was thinking it's about a woman who is dealing with cannibalism. Just one single character. I was judging the book based on its cover, and I don't know, for some reason, I never read the synopsis for it. I always thought it was individually about a single character dealing with cannibalism. It turns out it's not just one woman. It's the entire fucking world in this book. Apparently there was like this epidemic going on that injected all the animals in the world with this virus. And so guess what they turned next to? Their second best option. Humans. Fucking humans. There's like a whole processing plant to process human meat. And the way it is described in here, it is just so brutal and gory. Lots of body horror. I feel like this would make a really interesting A24 film. Easily so far. This is one of the most disturbing books I've ever read. I was pretty shocked. I was not expecting this turnaround, like, at all whatsoever. I'm like, what, 26 pages in, and I just like read the back, and I was like, okay, unexpected, but interesting so far. We have our main character whose father is suffering and sick, and he's suffering from like dementia or something. And in order to pay for his father's bills, he is sort of like a skin grafter. He basically handles people's skins. People, they're not even considered people in this book. The livestock, aka humans in this book, their skin is considered like a huge delicacy. And it's just wild. And I'm assuming it gets even more wild from here because our main character, he has a tough time just differentiating that the meats that they're all getting from isn't human. But it's hard. And for me, I'm just like, oh, I am disgusted, but I am very intrigued. So I finished this. I'm in shock. I literally just finished reading the last line of this book. Shocked me. This book is so... What's that sound? The TikTok sound? This book is so fucking sick and twisted. I cannot believe what I just read. Like, I am denial and in shock right now. The ending of this book, people were like, oh, it's super anticlimactic. And they were like, not sure about the ending. But guys, the ending changed pretty much my whole viewpoints, my perspective, especially with one of the characters within this book. This book in of itself is just so disturbingly visceral and brutal. The way it described how human beings were processed and slaughtered like animals. The way lips, tongues, testicles, and skin were, treated as delicacies, for the rich, being sold at a high price point was just so... Everything about this book was just so disturbing and deliberate in that way. And I guess it's sort of parallel to how, how animals are treated in like slaughterhouses or processed like that. Like, I truly don't think I'll be able to look at meat the same way ever again, let alone another human being. Like, Like, I'm speechless right now. Like, of all the books on this list, this is by far, from most of the books that I own, I think this is the most disturbing books. One of the most disturbing books I have ever read in my entire life. It is just so incomprehensible and violent and just disgusting and morbid and just, oh my god. I'm at a loss for words right now. My mind is still reeling from that ending. I can't get over it. I gotta say though, aside from the act of human beings being processed as meat, there are so many triggers here because since the humans aren't even thought as human beings, they are brutalized, vandalized, sexualized, assaulted, like heavy and graphic mentions and scenes of rape in here. Like, it is very violent and very brutal. And there's a scene in here that was really hard to read, depicting animal abuse, especially that of puppies. So just be forewarned going into that. But yeah, I think this book in of itself really delivers on the fact of shock and just human life and its value. In the end, I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5. But yeah, so far I have around 6.5 hours left. It's also funny because the next book that I'm going to read is Human X by Kang. The irony, the contrast between this book and this book is just so funny and so uncanny. And this one comes in at 218 pages. Hello. Time for an update. It is 2 a.m. in the morning. 3 hours and 45 minutes-ish left of this challenge, which gives me ample time to finish the next and last book of this challenge. But you guys, let's talk about Human X for a hot second. I plowed through this one in one sitting, and I am drained, okay? Okay, you know how I was like psychologically drained with Tender as a Flesh? This one, I'm just mentally, physically, and emotionally drained. This was no happy book. I had thought going from Tender as a Flesh to this one, look at how bright and happy this cover is, albeit with this human skeleton on it. This should have been a sign. This should have been my clue, my signal, but no. I thought it would be a book about people doing nice, good human deeds, human acts of kindness. It was more like human acts of violence. This one is actually based on a true story. This one was actually based on a true story, on a true event. The story essentially chronicles the events of the Gwangju massacre in Korea in 1980, and it was just heartbreaking and devastating what happened to all of those poor people, the protesters, and how they were all treated, killed, and brutalized for peacefully protesting against the government. The book, though, primarily follows a plethora of different characters whose lives all sort a framework around a character named Dong Ho. The perspectives of this book was really interesting. A lot of it was told in first person, in third person, and in second person. I gotta say though, the second person point of view threw me off a little bit and sort of like disconnected me from the character in the story. It was a little jarring, confusing at times, but that was just like a minor complaint that I had with the book personally. Everything else other than that was just so emotionally heartbreaking, and the writing in here I loved. Han's writing in here was just so sad, so chilling, and just so evoking. It was really interesting too how the fact that in one of the perspectives, the author herself is the last POV towards the end of the book, and just offers up a lot more insight regarding the aftermath of the Gwangju massacre. Because the aftermath, the events that happened 20 years later, are still affecting the people who were there that day with serious repercussions. It's just a heartbreaking and ugly thing, a byproduct of the devastation of what happened that day. And at the end of it all, the title here plays heavily in the fact that when certain people commit acts of violence or unspeakable deeds of evil, they are sort of rendered different, other, according to society, where in fact, at the end of the day, they are just human, and of it all, we are all human beings. Just like an introspective look at that. This one took me on an emotional roller coaster, and I'm just drained at this point. I really want to read something lighter and happy. The last book that I'll be reading is Swimming in the Dark. And the only reason why I'm picking this one up is because it's gay. It's a summer romance between two Polish boys in the early 80s. I'm hoping it'll give me what I want with this next book. This last book comes in at 229 pages. And with that being said, let's get into it. Update. Just read the prologue. It's not going to be a happy book. Preparing yet for another heartbreak. I finished. I'm not gonna even say anything. I'm just gonna let it just sit in here, and just in here with me. But I can tell you already. New favorite. New fucking favorite. Glorious, beautiful masterpiece. Anyways, that's all I'm gonna say. And I actually finished with an hour and 27 minutes left in the challenge, and I think I'm just gonna stop it here. So we technically only read for 22 and a half, 23 and a half hours, whatever. I can't think right now, but we did it. Even with more books than I initially planned. I'm so proud of myself. But I'm gonna go and take a much needed nap, but I will update you guys later on the flip side. We did it. We fucking did it. 12 fucking books in 23 and a half-ish hours. Before we get into the wrap up, let's talk about swimming in the dark for a hot second. You know, I posted this on Instagram, like as a hint. Like I didn't even show you guys the cover. I even posted like just a little bit of the backside in the bluish water of the cover. So many of you guys got it immediately, which means this is good. You guys are well read. I'm sorry, but this right here is pretty much one of the best books I have ever read in my entire life. And I know I said that about another book in here, The Cat Who Saved Books. That's like on its own level, okay? But this is a work of art. It was so fucking good. This is definitely a summer book as well. I think it is the perfect time to go and get this book and read it like right now. It's just full of summer and life and light. And it just has that, you know, that energy that one can only get during this time of the year. Who knew that the summer weather could elevate my experience in a book? But let me tell you, this wasn't even a book to me. Not even a love letter. Although it comes close to being one. You know what it is? It's actually a love song. Just brimming and riveting from end to end. Just full of youth, light, and acceptance. The way this book describes youth and adolescence with its first crushes, self-acceptance, true love, it really, truly hit my soul. Throughout the entirety of this book, though, there's like this sense of just sweet longing, melancholy, and nostalgia. There's like a slight caress to it, soft and profound, with also a touch of just beautiful tenderness to it, comforting. It was like a heartfelt letter to my past for me. While the ending of this book was a little sad, albeit not a bad one, it wasn't like devastating or one that I would expect normally in a book like this. I feel like the ending of this book just shows just more promise, and it's a bit hopeful just for the future of the main characters in this book. The writing here is so fucking brilliant. It makes you feel things. It made me feel weightless and alive. And even though I'm pushing like a bunch of just random good facts and just good positive words at you, like I truly don't know what other way or how I would describe this book in like the best way possible for you guys to pick this one up. You guys already know how passionate I feel, right? When I give a book 5 out of 5 stars. Like I try to reserve 5 out of 5 stars for books that truly just are in another realm, in another world. And sometimes on a good day, I'll give a book like 5 out of 5. But this is like on a whole nother realm, on a whole nother dimension. Definitely a new favorite, and I will forever and ever cherish the small romance between these two soft Polish boys forever. Forever and ever and ever. I truly have no other words. No, I'm done. Everything that I wanted to say, I needed to say about this book, it's done. It's done. I'm done. Also, I want to say here that this book, even though it came out like 229 pages, it did not feel that way at all. I felt like for me, this is like one of the shorter books that I read of all the entire 12 books on this list, but this was by far the longest. But I do think that the format helps with it as well. But yes, similar to how I felt with The Cat Who Saved Books, please go do yourself a favor and pick this well-crafted work of art for yourself to read, especially during the summer season. It'll just heighten everything for you regarding everything that's happened with this one. It's beautiful, it's gay, it's slightly heartbreaking, and it's just human and real, you know, grounding in a way that sometimes it's not about the person you love. It's about the circumstances and the times that you're in and what you're going to do with that. And so that's all I'm going to say. 5 out of 5 stars, everyone. 5 out of 5 for me. Pretty much the 24-hour reading challenge, reading short books only under 300 pages. 12 books, baby. We fucking did it. I am super proud of myself. This was super fun. I had a whole lot of fun. I read so many good books in here. I felt like this challenge was so successful in the way that there are so many 4 out of 5 books here, 2 5 out of 5, and even the 3 out of 5s. They were good. They weren't bad. They just weren't my favorite, but I would still recommend them. And I calculated the amount of pages I read, and it was 2,083. I recommend reading every single one of these books on this list, especially the two you already know are my favorites, Swimming in the Dark and Kahuse Trees. 10 out of 10. But that is pretty much it, and if you guys want to check out the vlog that I did for This Is How You Lose the Time War, you can check it out over on my Patreon. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Thank you for spending some time with me, and I will see you all soon with a new video.